Today we're going to talk about preventing injury, how you can become the bulletproof, durable athlete and runner that you envision and get out there and explode your potential and have a lot of fun doing it. I'm going to share some tips with you, some things I've learned in more than 40 years as an endurance athlete and coach and owner of a gait analysis lab. Because listen, we're missing something, right? Something's missing. You know, despite the fact that we've got better shoes than ever, we've got more research, more providers, practitioners, information on the internet, so much more, yet still 7 out of 10 recreational runners in a calendar year get injured. So we're missing something. I have a clue about what that something might be, and I'm going to talk about that as we move forward and share some ideas with you, and I hope you'll pop back at me and share some of your thoughts too. You know, listen, injury is a little bit of a dirty word, right? I mean, it's tough to look in the mirror, and when we're facing an injury, and I've been there, trust me, it's a little bit embarrassing. So, you know, we've got a lot of information out there, but what is really the stuff that's going to help us move forward? So can we talk about philosophy for a moment? You know, I got some slides here. Check these out. Are we having fun yet? All right, so let's talk about philosophy a little bit, because I think this is important, right? When we think about injury, especially trying to come back after experiencing that little tweak, you know, and it's common, right? I mean, it's so often we get this little feeling. It's not enough to stop us in our tracks, but it is enough to stop us from really training the way that we want to train and really going out and getting after, you know, our running and doing the things that we love. So it's always that, you know, come and go kind of injury. But let's talk about philosophy. All right, so check this out. Check this slide out. Are we treating the symptoms rather than the root cause? Because I'm telling you, you will not ultimately eliminate an issue and get over it if you're just worrying about the symptoms and trying to treat the symptoms. And that's one of the challenges. We got to get to the root cause, right? The other thing is, are we thinking in a reductionist way? Are we thinking holistically? Listen, we're not a body part. And one of the problems that we face is we chase pain. Let's not chase pain. Don't chase pain, right? You've got to look at your body as a holistic unit. Everything functioning together in an integrated way. The body is a lot like a union shop. Every part has a job. So we've got to think holistically and not in a reductionist way. This is not and will never be about training a body part or a muscle. And the other thing is are we thinking about and looking at balance and how best to maintain it? Because that's really important. You know, remember, if you're dealing with an injury, you can't train the way that you want to. And that's one of the challenges that we have is we're trying to improve, we're trying to lift our fitness, but at the same time, we could be dealing with this injury that's not really an injury, it's a tweak, but it's preventing us from what we really want to do. So one of the things I've learned in all of these years is we have got to get to the root cause. We've got to address it head on and then eliminate it. And once we do that, man, the sky's the limit for what we can do as runners, as athletes, in terms of really achieving what we want to. Listen, here's another slide. You know, runners, unfortunately, learn this the hard way. We think running's a great way to get in shape, and it can be if we're moving well and things are functioning as they should. But very often I've found we need to get in shape on some level to prepare us to run, because running is hard on the body. You know, we forget this because we think of it as just a normal activity that we do, but I think of a mile of running as 1,500 one-leg squat jumps. How did I come up with that number? Well, just do a little bit of math. You're doing about 180 strides a minute plus or minus. Let's just say you're running at an average of a 9-minute per mile pace. If you do the math, you end up with about 750 to 800 foot strikes on each leg per mile. Think about that residual stress that, it adds up. So if things aren't functioning exactly the way that they should, if your foot's not doing what it should, if the leg and the hips and the core are not functioning just the way that they should, that residual stress can add up, and a little tweak can turn into a full-blown injury. And that's why so many of us experience that injury when we start to push the miles up, right? We start to go from 5Ks to 10Ks, or we start to go from an Olympic distance triathlon up to half Ironman 70.3. So we've got to think about the entire body and every body part doing its job. Here's another slide. Check this out. Why do we get injured? Tissue compensation. I mentioned once the body is a little bit like a union shop. Think about it. Every part has a responsibility. So if your hip on one side or the other isn't doing exactly what it should, then some other body part has to compensate, right? Some other part has to kind of kick in and do the job or try to help with another body part. And as soon as that happens, now we're asking a part to do a job it wasn't designed to do, and that's the reason why injury occurs. Here's another slide. Check this out. Are we having fun yet? Good. All right, excellent. Listen, balance. Balance is a word that, we typically use when we talk about, standing on something that's unstable. That's not what I'm talking about. When I think of balance, I think of the body front and back, side to side, everything just being in sync. But here's the other way that balance is really important. Balance between stiffness and compliance. Think about it. If you're a runner or any athlete where you're moving on your feet, you're essentially like a spring. And that spring has to be stiff enough to avoid and resist the forces that are acting on you, that are trying to really crush you down, right? That's gravity from above, ground reaction forces from below. So you've got to be stable and strong enough, stiff enough as a spring to resist those forces. Think of it a little bit like the suspension on a car, right? If you want to handle really well in a tight turn at a high rate of speed, you need a suspension that's pretty stiff to resist, collapsing into that turn. That's one way to think of it. At the same time, though, that stiffness has got to be balanced with compliance, right? You've got to be able to, work with those forces, to utilize elasticity, which is inherent in the soft tissues in our body. So if we're super stiff and rock hard, every foot strike is just going to jar and jam up our bodies, and we're going to feel it. And that inevitably is going to impact our joints. We're going to have soft tissue injury. So compliance is also really important. Again, go back to the automobile analogy. It's a little bit like a spongy old Lincoln Continental where, you hit a pothole and it feels like you just, dropped to the bottom of the earth. Versus, a Porsche or a Corvette, a car with a really stiff suspension. We need a balance between those two things. That's why we got to know, if we're the type of runner or athlete where we're highly flexible and we can move our joints very freely, then more stretching is not what we need, right? We're already very compliant. In that instance, I can help a runner or athlete avoid injury, become more durable simply by improving their stiffness, which is to say, to upregulate, improve stability and strength, especially around the hip girdle. Another way in which we need balance is looking at our feet. Man, our feet need to function the way that they're designed. That means good intrinsic strength, and that means good mobility of the toes, because all the way up the chain, the foot is really our base of support. Everything up the chain will have to compensate if our feet are not functioning as they should. So check out, here's an image. Check out this image. This is a before and after example of what can happen. On one side, you'll look at that runner who man, things are collapsing to the middle, things are dropping on one side. That is an injured runner. That's an unstable runner. That's a runner where things are out of balance, right? But after the right kind of training, you'll see the other image. You can see things are much more aligned. Everything is stacked much better. There's better balance. So let me ask you, have I said anything to this point that doesn't, really resonate with you? Does it make sense? Because, a lot of the time we look for complex answers to really, to problems that really can be solved very simply by looking at things in a common sense way. Always and forever, it's about the basics and fundamentals. We just need our core to function as it should. It's one of our bases of support. It's sort of our linchpin so that our arms and legs can do their thing. So our core needs to be stable, right? Here's an exercise. Check out this video right here. This is an exercise I call the half front plank with a reach. What's the key to this exercise? You're reaching with an arm. You're going from a 4-point stance to a 3-point stance in a prone position and reaching with an arm. The key is nothing should move around the low back or the hips, while at the same time our glutes are fully engaged. That means the hips are working and the core is stable. It's got nothing to do with strength, by the way. This is stability of the core, which is one reason why a plain old front plank 4-point position doesn't challenge us dynamically at all, and it doesn't really offer any value as a way to really train our core. So listen, as I said, I ask you the question, does any of this make sense? We got to train holistically. Everything we do as an athlete in terms of supplemental training has got to be about integration. All the programs that I've created, integration, working holistically, addressing every body part just to make sure everything is doing its job. To me, that makes a lot of sense. If you've got any thoughts about any of this, so fire away. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. Because I can tell you, even though I've been doing this kind of work and thinking about this every single day, because injury prevention, coming back from injury, this is my jam. This is what helped me to a 2:39 marathon PR and get to Kona 3 times, to the Ironman World Championships, and coach a 5-time Ironman World Champion. Injury, avoiding it, coming back from it is the key to exploding your potential, because you can't train if you're injured. It's that simple, right? It is really that simple. So if you got some thoughts on it, any ideas, leave some comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. And in the interim, check out this link, because this will take you to a page you can get started on a simple, easy to follow. I said simple, easy to follow, but not easy bodyweight strength program, along with a foundation program. Listen, this is the program that I developed along with my partner, a sports physician. That's a true system of training that every athlete that came in for a gait analysis received. My Restore the Foundation program. Check out this link, read through the page, and don't forget to download my ebook as well too, the 5 things every great runner does in their training. This is one of the things, this is some information that I learned when I had an opportunity to observe the Kenya national team train in Franklin Park prior to the World Championships many years ago, early on in my running development, now almost 30 years ago actually. Prior to the World Championships were held there in Franklin Park. So all right, listen, thanks for joining me. Check out these links. Let me know if you have any questions. Reach out. Remember, I'm here to help, because this is my passion, sharing what I've learned, helping you to overcome that injury and become the unstoppable athlete that you deserve to be, that you want to be. All right, thanks for joining me. Bye now.